The subject of my talk today is unlocking new campaign targets with AI. How can we accommodate our strategy right now to anticipate what's going to come in the future? Now, I'm going to focus on very specific campaigns, namely welfare campaigns that are currently going on, although this can apply to all sorts of different campaigns: diet change, ending animal experimentation. There are some core principles here that can be applied to other domains. Okay, so let's start off with a little story. It's back in 2013, and this is when animal advocates first started doing cage-free campaigns. They realized that if we pressure corporations to request that their suppliers source eggs from chickens that aren't in cages, then we get really good success. The animal ag industry was accustomed to vegans and people doing protests, but they weren't used to, say, McDonald's asking them to take their chickens out of cages. So this was pretty revolutionary. And this sandcastle over here is our progress, and we're making pretty good progress. And animal ag was over there playing around, not really paying too much attention to us, but kind of feeling caught off guard. And where is AI? AI is all the way back there. The sea is very calm, and GPT-1 hadn't even come out yet. Fast forward 10 years. So this is 2023. We are making so much progress on cage-free. Right now in the UK, 80% of eggs are from cage-free facilities. That's amazing. And we're so excited about our progress that we decided to add in another commitment, which was the Better Chicken Commitment, and this focused on broiler chickens. We also learned some valuable lessons, namely, when companies commit to a welfare improvement, they don't always follow through. So we needed to create some enforcement mechanisms. Now, animal advocates were getting smarter. Animal ag was also getting smarter, putting up more of a fight. And this was also the year that GPT-3 came out, which many of you know as ChatGPT. And this really took the world by storm. It made some big waves. It got the most amount of users in the least amount of time of any tech company. But what did it have to do with our campaigns? You know, we're having this big fight over here, and ChatGPT is making fun, personalized poetry to amuse us, but would hallucinate a lot. So what could it ever be useful for? Well, let's fast forward 2 years. Now it's 2025, and GPT has a lot of friends now. They're not so friendly, they're in competition. What's going on here is that the fight is with animal advocates and animal ag is getting more sophisticated. We have better tools now. We have shareholder advocacy to ensure better enforcement. And our sandcastle is getting even bigger. So progress is being made, even though animal ag is still trying to push back. But nobody's really paying attention to this giant tsunami that the wave has developed into. Not only do we have GPT 4.5 now, but Anthropic has come out with Claude, Google has come out with Gemini, and recently a company in China has come out with DeepSeek, which is pretty close in capabilities to all these American models that we never thought China could catch up with because we had created import restrictions so that they didn't get as many GPU chips, which are needed to train AI, as the rest of the world. But they were able to match the rest of these models even with those resource constraints. So this big wave is coming, and the only people that seem to be paying attention to it are big tech companies and AI safety researchers and governments. So show of hands here, how many here have heard about Stargate? Not the movie, but the project. Okay, so maybe that's like 4 people out of a room of 40. So Stargate is a new project that is a partnership with OpenAI and a lot of other companies to invest $500 billion with a B dollars into developing data centers across the US, specifically for OpenAI, to secure OpenAI and the US's leadership in the new AI regime. Now, banks are funding this, and they take a very close look at their investments. They wouldn't be putting billions of dollars into this if there wasn't something really big in terms of value that could be captured later on. And the rest of the world doesn't really seem to be waking up to this. We are excited that now we can create images that we want. By the way, these images were all created using, I think I used Gemini. And we're like, oh, now we can create videos and stuff. So that's how it looks to the public. But there's actually a lot going on behind the scenes. These companies keep their most powerful technology very close to their chest, because when they release it out to the public, other companies can use this technique called distillation to just quickly and cheaply catch up to the performance of the models that spent tons and tons of money to develop it. So, when is this wave going to hit? It seems pretty imminent. So this is what a lot of AI safety researchers think progress is going to look like. It's kind of like compounding interest. At first, it doesn't really look like that much. And we're like, oh, wow, cool, progress. Like, think about the difference between 2013 and 2023, and then the difference between 2023 and 2025. It is worlds different. Like, now when a new model comes out, it barely registers in the public consciousness. It's coming out so quickly, we can't even keep up with it all. Whereas ChatGPT, when it first came out, it made such big news. How long is it until we reach this upward trajectory? Well, there are many people that are very smart and very involved that have made predictions. So Metaculus, which is a aggregated prediction platform, has an average estimate of 2031. And this is for AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. That's just generally human level capabilities for AI. And Anthropic thinks that it can come in 2026 to 2027. OpenAI thinks it's a little bit of a wider range, with it possibly coming earlier. So all in all, people that are the smartest and brightest estimate that AGI will come either in less than 1 year or 6 years from now. That's pretty soon. So how do we prepare for this? And should we even prepare for this? Now, to answer what things might look like, whether we're prepared or not, we can look back to some older case studies. So this is comparing Netflix to Blockbuster. Now, there's a couple of key ingredients that AI really likes that they need to be fed in order to actually work. That's number one, lots of data. So Netflix can get a lot of analytics. They can know how long somebody's watching a video, who's watching a video, how many videos you scanned before you landed on one that you liked, and they can personalize all of that for you. Whereas Blockbuster, they only knew how many videos were being rented, and they only know who was renting it if you used your store card. So a lot of imprecise data over there. Netflix had a lot more to work on. The next thing you want is reliable metrics. So are we actually measuring and optimizing for the thing that we really care about? For companies, that's quite easy. So they're both paired in this, in that they want to maximize profit. That's what companies exist to do. With animal welfare, it's a bit different. And finally, fast feedback loops. So Netflix has the capacity to A/B test on a wide and granular level. They can change what thumbnails people see and compare like similar populations to see like what works better for them. They can change their recommendation system to show you the things you'd most likely to be hooked on first. Whereas Blockbuster, if they wanted to run A/B testing, they would have to first come up with a solid plan from HQ, then distribute it to all of the managers in all of the stores. And then the managers would have to teach the employees how to do it. The employees may have to like change the insert on like each DVD, and then they'd have to like track how much of each type of DVD was bought as a result of a different type of like cover. And then they also need to track like the demographics of the people that bought one DVD versus another. And they need to report all of this back to HQ, and then they need to decide what they're going to do. So that's a lot of steps and a lot of links in the chain that could make this whole system fall through. Does that sound like any other thing that we are struggling with right now in terms of corporate campaigning? So how does this translate to the animal agriculture industry? Well, there's very differential adoption of technology throughout the different industries. Dairy is more like Netflix. Chickens are more like Blockbuster. Why? Because dairies have had robotic milkers for decades now. These milkers, they can recognize what cow walks into them, how long they're in there. They can measure the milk flow out of each teat. They can see the sugar levels in that milk. They can see the white blood cell count. So they know if the milk is being lowered in production, and they know if a certain cow is getting mastitis, so they could give antibiotics to that one cow. And with chickens, the strategy is just maybe give them all antibiotics or just like raise them however we do and then like pick up the dead birds. It's very antiquated. And you can see in this shed, it's mainly just cages and lights and some ventilation system. There's no cameras in there. There's no like sensors. There's no chips or tags on any of the birds. And so dairy it can do like fast feedback loops, whereas the chicken industry is harder to react. Okay. So what is this called when factory farms adopt this newfangled technology? It's called precision livestock farming, and this is what it looks like. You can actually recognize each individual cow, like through a camera, see if they're eating or not eating, and you can see like each individual pig and estimate how much they weigh. So this is a technology, a field that's been around for decades as well. What's the current state of it? Well, the research and capital investment is growing, and it's not super widespread except in the dairy industry. And that's because dairy cows are large and valuable. So they can wear monitors. They can also be easily tracked with cameras, and they're very valuable. So losing one cow is losing a lot of value. Whereas the poultry and seafood industry, they're not so developed in terms of technology. They are expendable, they're cheap, and they're hard to recognize and track because they're so bunched together and they're so small. So how does this apply to how we can future-proof our campaigns? What kind of framework are we working on? I'm going to use the Better Chicken Commitment as a case study here. So in 2017, animal advocates asked McDonald's to commit to the Better Chicken Commitment, which mainly has like square footage requirements and breeds for the broiler chickens, which are all welfare inputs. But McDonald's said, no, we're going to do this instead, which are these like proposed broiler welfare commitments. And two of these actually focus on welfare outcomes. One is like improving the outcomes, and the other one is developing the technology to monitor those outcomes. And so far, I have not heard many advocates that campaign for the Better Chicken Commitment talk about this. This is something that McDonald's proposed themselves, and there's a lot of skepticism on whether they would fulfill it or not, but not a lot of work to make sure that they fulfill it. So what are these welfare outcomes? So this is the International Poultry Welfare Alliance. They've published a list of 15 key welfare indicators for broilers, and McDonald's is one of the organizations that is a member of this committee. And I've looked at all of these, and about 11 of them are based on outcomes, things that we can track using sensors and AI analysis. That's things like flock mortality, foot pad condition. These are the things that actually impact the welfare of the animals, whereas like broiler breeds, that's like one step removed. Having a better breed makes all these things less likely, but it is just a proxy metric for what we actually want, which are these outcomes. So the AI wave is coming. How do we prepare? Well, I think we have to stop building sandcastles, and we have to start building robust castles that can withstand the wave, and maybe even have a moat around them so that when the wave comes, our moat can get filled up. The animal ag industry is already wise to this. This is a skyscraper in China that produces 1.2 million pigs a year, and they're going to build more of them. What does it look like on the inside? Well, there's cameras everywhere, and there's these control panels that have all sorts of metrics about what the air quality is, the temperature, the ventilation, and there's some people sitting at these control stations right now, but pretty soon it's going to be automated. So this whole thing will be some sort of black box that's automated. And this is very scalable because you don't have to pay for labor, and there's a lot less waste. But there are some silver linings to this. Companies, new technology companies, are also adding in welfare monitoring to their systems. So this is a company called Aquabite, and they developed these specialized underwater cameras that can look at fish and track their body condition. They can see how many lesions they have. They can even count how many sea lice are on each fish. And this is a wealth of data that we don't typically have access to. And how does this apply to broilers? Well, one proposed welfare indicator for broilers is how much they're moving. So sick chickens like to stay in one place and not move around that much. And this is a demo of a technology by Profit AI using computer vision to track how much the chickens are moving. And these technology companies are very amenable to welfare arguments. This was actually a demo that was done at the AI for Animals conference last month. So this is somebody who is friendly with the animal agriculture industry, wants to sell things to them, but also prioritizes animal welfare. So in conclusion, what should we take away from this? 3 things. We need to find scalable campaign asks that can be optimized through AI. We need to act quickly to get the first mover advantage. Even though Netflix started first and had streaming, they are still ahead of everyone else. They're ahead of Disney Plus and Paramount, who tried to copy this model and are somewhat successful, but Netflix had the customers to begin with, and people don't usually want to move to something else once they're already entrenched in a system that's working really well for them. So remember, be like Netflix. Try to make campaigns where we can eventually gather lots of data that can be interpreted for animal welfare. We need to know what our optimization targets are. Like, what is that thing that we really want that's robust, that we want to optimize for? What is the profit version of animal advocacy campaigns? And we also need tight feedback loops. We need to know whether what we're doing is working very quickly, not a year later, not when the reports come out, but instantaneously. All right, and with that, this concludes the presentation. This is my email if anybody wants to reach out to me, and you can scan the QR code to follow along with the news and updates that are happening from AI for animals, we are actually having a conference in London coming up May 30th to June 1st, where we'll be discussing a lot of these topics. The tickets will be out soon, so you can subscribe to our newsletter to know when that happens. Thank you.
So thank you, Constance. Amazing talk, thank you. Would there be any questions at all for Constance? A few questions? Yes.
Hi. I suppose some people might be concerned that there are like limits or a ceiling to how good a farmed animal's life could be. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that. So it could be that it's possible to make improvements, say, on the health outcomes by having monitoring and AI, etc. But it could still be that, in some ethical sense, the animal's life is not worth living.
Mm-hmm.
Interested to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so currently we don't really know. We'd love to answer those questions because they could really dictate what we do. But I think if we can observe a chicken in their like most ideal habitat and see like how they rate in terms of welfare, and then like see chickens on a farm that is like all decked out and like actually economically viable, and see how that compares, maybe there could be some answers in that. But I think that kind of following this framework would also help answer that question. Yes?
Last question, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so you mentioned really briefly that a lot of the AI companies are really interested in including animal welfare. That sounds really interesting. Could you unpack that more?
Yeah, so the AI companies, well, it depends on which AI companies you're talking about. Are you talking about the welfare technology or the animal ag ones? Yeah. So a lot of companies historically have been very entrenched in the farming system. They're like 7th generation farmers. They don't really like being criticized. Whereas these newer companies that are developing this technology, they are usually from the Bay Area. They're younger. They want to differentiate themselves by like offering all sorts of different value propositions, mainly in productivity, but they can also use that data for welfare. And if welfare is going to be the thing that gets them more sales, then they're going to optimize for that. So I think we can have a much better chance of influencing these companies and creating allyships with them to gradually increase the welfare focus of their technology more and more, and also focus on like who gets access to this data. Is it just going to be a black box like Apple where nobody can see like what happens in there and Apple dictates all of it? Or is it going to be something that's more open source and we can like talk about the standards and the metrics that are going to be used and maybe update them every couple years based on new science that comes out?
Okay, so thank you everybody, and thank you again, Constance. Thank you.
Thanks.